Do you have a favorite Texas State football moment yet?
Getting that bowl victory and walking out onto the field for that first bowl game and looking around and all the fans at Texas State and just the way the air felt and the excitement. I think that was even winning, but just walking out on the field and looking around like, yeah, it's almost not that we did it, but we did it.
Today, I'm really excited because we have Coach GJ Kinne is going to be here talking to us about what's going on with the football program at Texas State. GJ, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So I got to start off, your name's Gary Joe, but when did they start calling you GJ?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my grandpa, I'm actually the third.
You're the third?
So my grandpa goes by Gary,
okay.
And then my dad goes by Gary Joe, and then I guess they just decided to go with GJ for me.
So as far back as you remember?
Yeah, I've always been GJ.
Okay, that's awesome.
Well, now some of my friends back home, high school buddies,
still call you Gary Joe.
Yeah, when they're trying to be funny and stuff like that. So.
Well, I just call you Coach. So anyways,
there you go.
Yeah, so it's great to have you here on the podcast. And this is an opportunity for us to let people know more about the movers and shakers here at Texas State, and you're certainly one of them. But it gives us a chance to learn more about how you got here and your Texas State story. So let's go back as far back as you want to go. So you're back in high school and your dad's the coach, right? And so were you always going to be a quarterback, or were you different positions and kind of work your way up to quarterback, or what happened there?
Yeah. I so the summer before my freshman year, obviously big time in your life, and my dad gets a job at Kenton High School.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Mesquite.
Yep.
That's where I was born and raised, and my dad got the head coaching job at Kenton High School, which was his first head coaching job, which is about 45 minutes east of Dallas. And so we make that move out there to Kenton, and it was a little different for me for sure. I remember the first day sitting there in the class. First day, you got your new shoes on, your new school clothes,
new pencil box,
new pencil box, all that kind of stuff, and. They come on the loudspeaker, the announcements, they're like, if you showed a pig over the summer at FFA, come claim your, ribbon or whatever. I'm like, where am I? This is definitely not, what I'm used to. But, man, it was a really, good experience. And obviously my dad, getting to be my coach was a lot of fun. And we started off my freshman year. I remember the first scrimmage, being like the freshman JV quarterback, and that didn't last very long. After the first scrimmage, second scrimmage, they moved me up to varsity, kind of started taking over, and end up winning the first playoff game in school history. Was a starter the full year. I was the East Texas Newcomer of the Year as a 14-year-old high school kid, and it was definitely a learning experience. I was just a young kid out there, knew nothing about anything, but I was able to run around and make some plays, and won the first playoff game in 64 years, I believe, at Kenton High School, and ended up getting some scholarship offers, shortly after that, after my freshman year, and I believe Baylor was my first offer, and then Oklahoma State.
Because your dad played at Baylor,
and then my
right?
dad played at Baylor. My dad was a all Southwest Conference linebacker at Baylor. So, and then my sophomore year, same type deal, getting recruited and have a big season. I think. Throw for 3,000, rush for 1,500. I'm really kind of finding my groove, playing basketball, playing baseball, all state in baseball. And then April of my sophomore year, April 7th, 2005, I'm sitting in actually my quarterback coach's class, who also taught some kind of history. I don't know how that goes.
Pretty typical, right?
Yeah. Just kind of sitting around, waiting around, and they come knock on the door and ask for me, and I'm like, whoa. Looking for me?
Am I in trouble?
Am I in trouble? And, the police officer says, hey, just come with me. And then it got to a point where like, hey, no, like, what's going on? Tell me. I know it's nothing I did. Like, what's going on? And, they told me my dad had been shot down in the field house. And, obviously a lot of emotions going on there, rushed down there, and the whole crime scene's there and everything you can imagine, and I remember seeing my dad lay on the stretcher and the helicopter laying on the football field.
Crazy.
And just amazing how quick it happened, one, and then two, how quick he got from Canton to Tyler, and the specialist that was in Tyler at the time to do the procedure. Just as bad as it was, everything kind of lined up pretty well after that. And that was April, and he was probably 265, 75 pounds at the time, and then he was down to, I think, 170 that first football game.
Wow.
He made it back for the first football game, had, all kinds of things hooked up to him and bags and all that, and ended up only missed the second or third game. He got an infection and had to go back in, but that was a big time for me, obviously, with my dad and being 15 years old and being the starting quarterback and all that. I grew up a lot. I was basically the coach of the team, especially offensively, when my dad wasn't around. So grew up a lot, learned a lot, and come back that next year, my junior season, and we go 12-2 and best year in school history. My dad was the national, high school coach of the year.
Wow.
He gets the linebacker job at Baylor, and then at that point, I ended up transferring to Gilmer High School, and that's where I ended up playing for Jeff.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now the head coach at UTSA was your coach in high school, and
exactly.
And you've had 2 years in a row now of playing him. Yeah,
exactly.
He beat you the first time.
Yeah,
and then you beat him the second time.
For sure.
What was that like?
We'll go back.
Yeah.
So my junior season, in the second round of the playoffs, it's Canton versus Gilmer. And he's the head coach at Gilmer. I'm obviously at Canton.
Is that right?
And
okay.
We win 61-58. And
that sounds like some UIW games.
Yeah. So we Jeff always brings that up, and so that was a crazy game for sure. It was probably one of the best games in East Texas history.
Yeah.
And just a whole lot of fun. And then I ended up transferring there the following season. And
did you guys meet in a Dairy Queen or something like that?
Yeah. He didn't recruit me. I actually recruited myself there. So my dad was in Waco, and I didn't necessarily want to move. I was already in East Texas. I kind of established myself in East Texas. I wanted to stay in East Texas, and Canton just wasn't a great spot for me after my dad was gone.
Yeah.
And so Gilmer wasn't too far away. I knew, Coach Traylor with his history with the McCown brothers, who, one of his sons now is the starting quarterback at UTSA. I just thought it would be a really good fit. And so we moved out there and like I said, met in the Dairy Queen parking lot. He told me, hey, you probably shouldn't come here. We got a quarterback. He's committed to SMU. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And at that point in my career, how it is, I didn't care. I thought I was the best quarterback in the country, and I didn't care. If I couldn't beat him out, then I'd play receiver or linebacker or safety or whatever that looked like, and going about my business. But it was an awesome experience, and really learned a ton from Coach Traylor, and my dad's a defensive coach, and so obviously we're really good, scoring all those points and throwing all those touchdowns. But it was the first time I was in a real offensive system, so really learning the ins and outs of being a quarterback, not just running around making plays. So that was a big deal for me, and just a whole lot of fun. Learned a lot, and my brother ended up staying there and playing for Coach Traylor, winning a state championship and all that. So just a really, really good person, awesome coach, obviously, and it's pretty cool that we get to play him every year and be the rival and all that.
So you finish your senior year with Coach Traylor, and then school's been calling you for a long time. Baylor were the first one, but you end up going to Texas. Yeah. So what was the decision to go to be a Longhorn? Yeah,
so I was committed elsewhere, and obviously my dad was at Baylor, and obviously same thing, really, really good school. And I had played for my dad all through high school, and it was one of those deals where, was I going there just because of my dad? Did I, kind of all those internal questions that you ask yourself, and Texas had offered me really early in the process. They end up getting a quarterback, and then they lost a quarterback, so they rallied back and asked if I would be interested, and just felt like it was really good timing. And one of my high school teammates at the time at Gilmer was committed there, and he was going there, and so it was a hard decision for sure. Because two great places, and my dad being there, it just it was something different. It's kind of one of those deals as a high school kid. You want to go be a college kid and get away from mom and dad and all that. So
you don't want to go too far away, but you want to have a little independence, right?
Exactly, a little bit of independence, and so I ended up going there, and it was was one of those deals where it was just so big for me coming
Yeah.
from Canton and Gilmer and going to the University of Texas with all the students and getting on the buses and I remember sitting in my first class and all that. It was just a lot different.
Yeah.
And then obviously for me being a 4-year starter in high school and going there, and they had Colt McCoy and you're sitting there going like, I'm never going to play, one of those type
sure.
deals. I ended up transferring and went to the University of Tulsa, and Todd Graham was the head coach at the time, who was teammates, high school teammates with my father at North Mesquite High School. So that was the original connection. Brent Graham, his nephew, was my DC at Canton High School, who was now on the staff at Tulsa at the time. So
it's a small world, right?
Yeah, for sure. So end up going to Tulsa, was a 3-year starter there, and Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator. He was the one that recruited me. It was a very comfortable environment for me, and it felt like somewhere I could really thrive and go in there, and they felt like they believed in me, and that's really, as a quarterback, that's what you want somewhere where it's a good offensive fit, and somewhere where you can develop, and they believed in me. So back then you had to sit out. Now in the portal you go and you have to you just play right away, and I had to sit out, so that was tough for me. Obviously getting to Tulsa and same thing, Coach Malzahn lights it up. And he ends up leaving, going to Auburn. And he always told me when he recruited me, he said, "Hey, you're going to win the Heisman. You're going to win the." I'm like, all right, I don't know about that. But then that next year, his quarterback wins the Heisman at Auburn, Cam Newton. So it was one of those deals where obviously very happy for him, but I was disappointed that he left, and I didn't get to play for Coach Malzahn. But I had a bunch of really good coaches, and obviously in high school with my dad and Coach Traylor, and then in college, Todd Graham and Gus Malzahn. I learned something from each of them, and I think that's probably. I always knew I wanted to be a coach, but I think the great coaches that I was around really molded me into being who I am today.
So you met great coaches there. Did you meet anybody else there that's kind of important in your life?
Yeah, exactly right. So my senior year, it's actually the summer going into my senior year. I graduate. You graduate in May, and this will be. There's conflicting reports on this, but I'll tell you the real story.
This is your version of it.
This is my version of it.
Which we know is the truth.
Yeah, so summer, my wife at the time invited me over to her house for like a graduation get-together,
what was she doing at Tulsa?
So she was a cheerleader at the time, but she was in charge of everything. I mean, she was in charge of the I don't even know all the groups. There was all kinds of groups that she was in charge of.
So nothing has changed. She's still the same, right?
Exactly. Nothing really has changed. She was. I think our first interaction was actually her emailing me or sending me a text like, "Hey, you're the student athlete football representative, and you're supposed to be here there." And I'm like, "All right, lady, I'm trying to go score some touchdowns here. Stop, leave me alone." So that was our first interaction, and then like I said, she invited me over to the house, and the rest is history from there. And we ended up sitting next to each other in graduation, and I was trying to introduce her to my family, and she was like, "No, bro, like I'm not doing all that." She had her own plans, and we've been together ever since.
And growing this beautiful young family here, which is great to see. So let's fast forward now. So you graduate. You had a great college career. I remember watching you play because I was at University of Oklahoma. We played there a couple times up in Tulsa. And then the pros come calling, right? So you get a couple of great experiences. I'm an old CFL guy, so I texted you a couple days ago because I was watching the Stampeders play, and I know you played there. But talk about the pro career and then how that prepared you to be where you are now.
Just an awesome experience. Obviously, some up and downs in the professional level, and had an unbelievable college career, and threw for a bunch of yards, rushed for a bunch of yards, a lot of wins. Went undrafted, and I remember sitting there on draft day and being the 10th ranked overall quarterback on the board, and being up there with Russell Wilson and Nick Foles and all these guys that end up winning Super Bowls and being MVP, and always saw myself right there, and just never got to that opportunity. A lot of it has to do with an opportunity, and
that's it, right? I mean, sometimes it's just luck, right place, right time.
For sure.
And then you get in there and you make it happen.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Signed with the Jets as an undrafted free agent, was there not very long, went to the UFL, did that for 4 games until they ran out of money, and we had to go back home. And worked in the oil field for about 6 weeks, just trying to train and have some money so I could, pay my car note. And I'd signed with the San Antonio Talons to play arena. They brought me down for a workout. I was like, I'm not giving up on my dream. I want to keep playing. Signed with the San Antonio Talons, moved all my stuff. I was going to be the starting quarterback. I was super excited about the new opportunity and play arena football. And the Philadelphia Eagles called me for a workout, and Chip Kelly had just gotten the job there, so he was bringing a spread, RPO, new up-tempo offense to the NFL, and that's all I had played in college. And so felt like if I could, do really well in this workout, I would have at least the opportunity maybe to stick around. The Eagles are actually my childhood favorite team. My dad went to training camp with them in 1990, so that was kind of my team. And so having the opportunity to work out, I did really well at the workout. And I remember calling my dad afterwards and telling him, hey, they're signing me. I'm getting an opportunity. And I got to spend the next 3 years there, 13, 14, training camp 15, played quarterback.
You played a lot of positions.
Yeah,
right? You did everything.
So quarterback, special teams, and then when we signed Tim Tebow in 15, they moved me to receiver, and then every third day when Darren Sproles would go to receiver, from running back to receiver, I would go from receiver to running back, just because I knew the offense so well, and I was a running quarterback, like I said, in college. So that was another great opportunity. Obviously, being around Chip Kelly, Ryan Day was my quarterback coach in 15, Bill Lazor, Bill Musgrave, Jeff Stoutland, who I think is the best offensive line coach of all time. So just a bunch of really, really good coaches. And same thing, every time Howie Roseman would cut me, who's someone I texted him actually yesterday, every time he would cut me and bring me back, he would say, hey, when you want to get into coaching, I think that's your gift. I'm like, no, I want to keep playing. Well, he's like, well, when it's your time to be done, give us a call. And so I did that. I went up to Canada the next year. Then I went to the Giants. Sorry, I missed that in 2015. Played safety with the Giants and got to be around Tom Coughlin and another really good football coach, and learned a ton there. But they ended up drafting a couple safeties that off season, cut me, and at that point I wanted to go back and play quarterback. And the only team that would give me an opportunity was in Canada, and went to the. First, I went to the St. Peter's,
it's my favorite
Calgary.
team growing up.
So that was really cool. And then so I was there for a week in training camp, and then I ended up going to the Rough Riders and played that whole year there. That's where I got engaged in Banff at Lake Louise, and we played Calgary, and Coach Jones let me stay and told him, I said, hey, I'm gonna propose to my girlfriend. Is that okay? And so he let me do that, and that was a ton of fun. And but after that season, I knew, like, okay, do I want to keep playing in Canada and kind of start that journey and career, or do I want to go and get into coaching? And Chad Morris, who I said was my offensive coordinator in 2010, was the head coach at SMU, and he had a GA position open, and that's kind of what started my coaching career.
So now you make a decision to kind of hang up the cleats. Like, were you ever thinking, like, maybe if the Eagles call again, I'll go back, or were you like all in on coaching then?
No, I think that first year, especially being a GA, I think
right?
if anyone would have called, I would have left. That was definitely a transition. I lived in Dallas in the off season. We ended up moving right next to SMU, but all my family's in Dallas. It was an easy transition because I knew Coach Morris and I knew what type of person he was, and that's a big deal when you get into coaching, who you work for. Because there's a lot of bad coaches out there, and so getting with Coach Morris was really good for me. But it was also very challenging. Obviously, being the starting quarterback, and just the roles were a lot different now. I was his star quarterback. He was the offensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach, and I was the GA. So I went, I was the highest to the lowest. And Coach Will Bryan, our tight end coach and pass game coordinator, he was the other GA, and so. He was a really, really good GA. I was a very bad GA. Not because I was late or anything like that. I just didn't know how to do any GA work. I didn't know how to run the computer. Obviously, I knew the information. I knew what to tell him. I wanted to call the play. Hey,
right.
I don't want to type this in. I want to call the plays.
Right.
Exactly. So that was probably the biggest challenge is just sitting and learning to play my role and all the things that I wasn't accustomed to. So I learned a ton that first year but obviously Coach Bryant definitely took care of me and helped me out in a lot of different ways. So very thankful for him.
Okay, so you start off as GA, first assistant coaching job, where you get paid real money.
I went to Arkansas for that year, still type GA analyst type situation. And then Howie Roseman calls me back in 2019, really the off season of the 18 season. They were still playing. And to come back to Philly, Doug Peterson was there, Super Bowl winning coach. I probably don't talk enough about Howie, but the type of impact he had on my life, and just an unbelievable person, and just very thankful for him. But giving me an opportunity to come back and coach in the NFL and learning under Jeff Stoutland, that was a huge deal for me, because as a coach, when you go to the NFL, it's kind of like they sprinkle some magic dust on you and you become this great coach. But it really is. It's just a different type of grind, and being around the best players in the world every day, and their drive and their work ethic is pretty remarkable.
And they have a different thought, right? Because when you're a college player, you're kind of like, I know I'm going to be here 4 years or whatever, but they're like, You're coming to take my job, so I'm going to be busting my hump to keep my job. And so their mentality is just so much different from college.
It really is. Like in college, you really are dealing with, for the most part, with young men that are trying. In the NFL, I mean, these guys have kids of their own.
They got responsibilities.
They got wife and kids and agents and all. And goals, and this might be year 15 for them in the season. This is their last year, and as a young coach, if you mess up the look, if you mess up the scout team, if you tell me the wrong thing, if you scheme a wrong play, it can be the last time they ever play football, and it can mess up everything they've worked for. So there's a different type of pressure, I think, when you're dealing with a Jason Kelsey and a Lane Johnson and Carson Wentz and Nick Foles and Alshon Jeffrey, all the great players that were there at the time. You have a certain responsibility and pressure to not only win games, but put those guys in the best situation for them in their career. So it's definitely a different game and something that I really enjoyed. But then I got to have the opportunity to be the offensive coordinator at University of Hawaii under Todd Graham, another former coach of mine. Just got an offensive coordinator job there, and for another one of my former coaches. So now that's 3 in a row, almost 4 in a row, with Chad hiring me at SMU, Howie bringing me back, Todd hired me at Hawaii, and now Gus hired me at UCF. So that's what I tell the guys all the time. How you carry yourself every day and the way you treat people, it matters. And you never know who's watching and who's going to be able to make an impact on your life. Just like our defense coordinator, Dexter McCoyle, was a college teammate of mine.
So UCF. So you're
at UCF. Yeah,
that's another kickstart for you. So now you're going into the league, working for Coach Malzahn, and then another opportunity pops up.
Yeah, exactly right. So spend a year there. We get to coach Dylan Gabriel, who just got drafted by the Browns, and then we go to UIW, first head coaching opportunity. Yeah. And I remember, obviously, it was in Texas.
It's a smaller school, but now you're the boss, though, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, you're still pretty young, right?
Exactly. And that was really the real draw there, was for me getting back to Texas and then having the opportunity to be a head coach. That opportunity came about. It was at UIW, and it was just one of those, I didn't know about it. I was at UCF. I was in a good spot. We had just beaten Florida in some bowl game, and so we had a lot of momentum going, and Coach Malzahn was really good. But I knew, like, man, if I can go back to Texas and be a head coach, that would be really cool. Maybe I'll just do that forever. I'll stay at UIW forever. And get to UIW, and Cam Ward was there, and he's in the portal at the time, so they're like, he's probably not coming back, but he'll give you an opportunity to at least pitch your recruiting to him and his family. And unbelievable family, great kid, but that was the first uphill battle. Like, man, we just I get this first head coaching job, and maybe the best FCS player of all time leaves, and so I'm trying to figure it all out and getting a staff together and moving my family, and Summer was pregnant, and so just a bunch going on, and it worked out. We ended up signing Lindsey Scott. That was at a bunch of other schools previously, and had a little bit of success at Nichols, and we signed him in the portal, and ends up having 71 touchdowns and 60 passing, 11 rushing, and wins the Walter Payton, and we end up going to the playoffs and making a couple rounds, and just a really cool year, really cool season. A bunch of records were broken, but I always remember the kids and the people and how they treated me, and it was just a really cool season.
Yeah, I think when you're the OC, you think, I could be the head coach.
Yeah.
You have no idea what it's like to be the head coach until you start doing it.
Exactly.
Even at a small school, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that leads you to San Marcos.
Yeah.
We have a chance to interview people at the end of the season because we made a coaching change. And I remember interviewing you over Zoom, which is always kind of a strange thing, but something stood out that just made me think I want to have another in-person conversation. So you end up coming over here one evening, kind of late in the evening, up in my suite, and we're having a conversation. And I remember early on thinking, there's something special about this guy. But and I think the thing that struck me, the two things. One is that I asked you who's going to be your OC. Because I know a lot of offensive coaches want to be their own OC.
Yep.
And you said, I've got a guy.
Yep.
I've got it all worked out. And I thought that's good because a lot of people feel like they can be the head coach and the OC or the DC.
For sure.
And I think it's kind of hard to do both those things. But the second thing was that I felt like you felt like if and you actually said, boy, if the right person gets this job, this place could be something. And you said something along those lines, and that's what I felt. I thought, boy, if somebody figures this thing out, Texas State's going to be able to take off. But what was it that you saw about Texas State then that made you believe that?
For me, it was always one of those jobs where I just didn't understand why.
Yeah.
I remember me and Lane Johnson, who's with the Eagles now, we came here and floated the river at one point while we were playing, and this area of Texas is to me is like a vacation.
Yeah.
It really is just an unbelievable spot, and you're right in between Austin and San Antonio, and all the the student population. It just didn't make sense why they weren't winning at a higher level, and so it was one of those deals for me. Maybe halfway through that season, and you're starting to figure things out and look around. I'm like, man, I hope as much as the Coach Spav that was here before, he's an awesome guy and all that. I was like, man, if that job does come open, man, I would love the opportunity just to go interview, and obviously that happened, and just. I just knew if the right guy, like I said, got that job, you can win a bunch of games there. And then after meeting you and Don and Travis, just felt like, okay, I can work with these people. Yeah. They're like-minded. We can align very well. They want to win. I know if I can get my guys in here, we get the staff right. We can, because no one was really doing the portal like we were going to do it, and I knew we could get a leg up on some people that way. But we had to go fast. That was my biggest thing. After I interviewed, like, all right, let's do it. So I can get to work.
But your season wasn't over yet. You said you still had the coach, and you guys kept winning, and
exactly.
So I became the biggest UIW fan because I was watching. I never watched that much FCS football before.
Yeah.
So
that was.
You guys went up to Sac State and played Cam Scattergood. It was the first time I heard of him.
Yes.
You guys beat him, but that game was like 68-65,
whatever
or something
it was.
like that.
Yeah,
whoever got the ball
crazy.
last won that game. Right?
Exactly. That was another challenging part. Is obviously, trying to win a national championship and recruit and I was back and forth. Yeah, I was back and forth and all that. But I had really good coaches and I knew we could handle it. And we were recruiting like crazy at the time and it was a unique situation. But I did the best for both universities that I could do, and it worked out. So
only Deion Sanders brought in more new players through the portal than you. I think you brought in 50-some players, and he brought in more, just a few more than that. But it worked. You brought some UIW players and coaches with you, and it's a different world, right? The portal, you're not building a program all the time. You're building teams all the time. That's to be a challenge. But you seem to have figured this process out, trying to first, I mean, I don't think anyone identifies talent better than you, but then also recruits them and convinces them to come. And then somehow you got all these new people every year, and you've got to like coalesce together, because a bunch of individual guys in the field isn't going to make it happen. You got to have a team, right?
I knew we had to do something drastic. You know, me and Coach Bailiff always joke about it. You know, we get the job here, and I'm looking around like, you know, we got to recruit. We got to get to work, and we were able to do that. And I think bringing those UIW guys was huge. But you know, we hit on a bunch of other guys in the portal early on, and we were working and eating, and I had so much hibachi and Cody Steakhouse, and
I think didn't you put on like 25 pounds the first year?
Every year, every off season. That's, you know, a lot of coaches lose.
It's like baby weight, but it's like recruiting
exactly.
weight. Yeah.
A lot of coaches gain weight during the season. I'm the opposite. I lose during the season and gain the off season because all the recruiting we do. But yeah, it was crazy. I remember, you know, after we beat Baylor and they put up that graphic of me and Deion Sanders, and I was like, wow, this is we really just did that. Yeah. We just beat Baylor. We brought in 50 whatever new players and go beat a P4 school for the first time in school history.
On the road,
first game, and you do it with all these new guys that have been cut other places and people didn't want them, but it's almost like Moneyball. You find the right guys that fit your system, and you gotta just because he's a good player doesn't mean he's going to be a good player in your system. So you're constantly evaluating and talking to people, and it's a process. But I love that part of it.
One of my favorite stories about you and me is that you were bringing me in to come talk to the recruits, and we'd go meet at breakfast, and I would share a few encouraging words about what was happening at university. And my pitch was always, wouldn't you want to come and be the first team to take Texas State to a bowl game, and wouldn't you want to be part of that legacy and that history? And like the third or fourth time, you said, pulled me aside and said, hey, don't mention that we've never been to a bowl game before, because they don't know. And so I had to change my pitch a little bit about just talk about the university. But you had to sell promise. You were selling the sizzle more than the steak, because we hadn't done a lot of things that you knew we could do. And for the young people that were coming here, they had to like believe in you and the promise of the university without the history about being there. Some other places it's a little easier to recruit to because maybe they've got more resources or they've got more history or whatever. But you've had to sell more of the promise than the reality of the history of it. So what's your pitch to the young people that are thinking about coming here?
I think early on in the process, it was exactly what you said. It was, you know, the opportunity to come play an exciting offense, to play an exciting defense. You know, what we had just done at UIW, we can do the same thing here as far as on the field. And then we sold the university a bunch. And it's very similar to what I said earlier, the river and the student life and the location. There's just so many great things about this place. And I think once the high school kids, the transfers, the junior college kids, they got to campus, they felt the same way. And you're not ever gonna bat 1,000, but we signed more than we lost early on, and you know, a lot of those guys, you know, these last 2 years have played a huge part in the success that we've had, and so it was an awesome first year. Obviously some up and downs, and I think that's what some people maybe don't understand about the process and about the portal and about putting the team together is when you're that portal heavy, when you're bringing in that many new guys, sometimes and it's year one, it's year two, you're going to have a little bit of those inconsistencies at time, and so that's why I'm excited about moving forward. We've kind of established our you know, footprint, kind of this is who we are offensively, this is who we are defensively. We've able to recruit some high school kids that are now in year 3 in the program. You know, we just signed 18 high school kids a year ago. So we have the blueprint of what we want to do. I was able to sign the 7-year contract, so that helped in recruiting and helped for me. We got it going in the right direction. You know, whether it's this year, whether it's next year in the pack, whatever that year is, we're gonna bust out, and it's gonna be really exciting. It's gonna be really fun because of the people, because of the plan that you had, the plan that we had in the football department. So it's really exciting.
To me, probably a couple of favorite moments stick out. One was being in Waco, and like maybe the third quarter, I thought like sometimes an underdog comes in and they kind of like they're punching above their weight a little bit. Maybe they're taken for granted by the other team. But eventually the heavyweights kind of roll over on the guys and kind of gets away in the fourth quarter. Somewhere in the third quarter, I said, man, we have a chance of winning this game. And I kind of looked over at you and you're like, holy cow, it's happening. And then, we win the game. So that's, to me, that was a signature moment for Texas State football for sure. Jumping in the river to celebrate the bowl game. But do you have a favorite Texas State football moment yet?
I think two for me. Obviously, that first game. I think anytime, like you said, you bring that many new people in, you have, first-time FBS head coach for me, and going on the road and playing a P4 opponent, and my dad went to school there, my brother went to school there, my sister went to school there, so a ton of history there.
Was your brother playing there?
Yes, he was actually on the team. Yeah, he was on the team at that time. Yeah. So getting that opportunity was really fun. And I don't think even now I still, the reflection part of it still hasn't hit. Like,
when they make the movie, it'll come back.
Yeah,
right?
there you go. And then I think, getting that bowl victory and walking out onto the field for that first bowl game and looking around and all the fans at Texas State and just the way the air felt and the excitement, I think that was even winning, but just walking out on the field and looking around like, it's almost not that we did it, but we did it type situation.
I kind of felt the same way, like before the game, because you're busy doing your thing, but we're out with the alumni in the tailgate area. And the tailgate's packed. We're not quite sure how many people are going to show up. And I don't think the bowl knew how many people were going to show up. But I kind of, at a moment, I took a bunch of videos of the crowd. And then for the second bowl game, going back to the same bowl, are people going to be tired of it? But I don't think our fans are tired of going to bowl games yet. Not tired of winning yet. And so talk about the future. You mentioned the PAC real quick. Yeah. How is that impacting recruiting now? And then what are your thoughts about joining the PAC?
Yeah, man, it was just in my opinion, an unbelievable move by you, by Don, and having the opportunity to be in such a prestigious conference and the history of that conference. It's already helped in recruiting. Players want to play in that conference. They want to play against the best. We'll see what they call it. If it's a P5, is it whatever that looks like? We'll see what that looks like. But the recruiting has definitely helped in recruiting. I'm excited about the stadiums, and I'm excited about the locations and playing at a Boise and going to some of these cool stadiums and going out west and playing in PAC after dark, all that, man. That's exciting.
Being the only game on TV, even though it's a late game for us, it's the only game, so everyone's watching. Right, PAC after dark, it became famous.
Yeah, for sure. And so, man, it's just it's already helped a ton in recruiting, and I'm really excited about it. But it's one of those deals where once fall camp started, I was I had to get ready for this season.
Because this season's everyone's Super Bowl is playing us, right?
Exactly.
So,
but recruiting, we're still using recruiting, and we have a couple, guys that we're on right now that I know for a fact that we wouldn't be able to land if we didn't make that move.
Well, I'm excited about the leadership of Texas State football because, we believe the future is GJ Kinne, and we believe in the bright future in front of Texas State football, Texas State generally. But thank you for coming here. Thank you for believing in Texas State, and thank you for making our dreams come true, making that a reality, because we saw something, you saw something that no one could imagine, but you made it happen. And I will tell you, it took a lot of work to get into the Pac-12, but if football hadn't done what it's done the previous 2 years, I don't think we're even in the conversation. So you had a huge role to play, even though you weren't in the middle of negotiations. Sometimes I wish you were, because it was a long year. But your building the program you did allowed us to be at least recognized as a potential partner in that conference, and I can't wait to go there. And by the way, we don't want to just go there and be the 8th best team in that program. We believe we can compete very strongly in all of our sports, but football especially. It's interesting for our home games. We think about going the other places, but a lot of those schools, we would pay good money for them to come play here. in back in the olden days, we would pay someone to come here. But they're just going to come being part of the conference now. So we're going to have some great games here in San Marcos, and great games on the road for our alumni to go to. And so great locations and great games, and some of those great stadiums. And looking forward to that for sure. All right, Coach, we have something we've started right when we started doing this podcast here. We ask people who are watching or listening to the podcast to send us questions that they want to ask me. And so you get to be the podcast host here for a second and fire away. I've not seen the question, so it's always pretty spontaneous.
All right. It says, if your calendar suddenly cleared for a week, what would you do with the time?
Holy cow. So it doesn't clear for a week very often, but Beth and I actually have a lake house in Arkansas. We bought it right before we left, and we thought about selling it, but we thought, let's just keep it. It's kind of a big place, and she uses it at Airbnb. But if we get a few days off, we go back there. Mostly, we got honeydew chores to take care of, fixing things and so on. But I never sleep better than when I'm at the lake. And I grew up on a lake, and so I grew up boating and fishing with my family. And getting back to the lake is actually, to me, one of the most relaxing things I can do. And I get so much good sleep in. I get to read some books, and nobody's bothering me. And the fact is, my calendar doesn't clear up very much, but because of technology, I can still participate in meetings and so on. So most people don't even know I'm gone when I'm there. So what about you? Do you have a place? You mentioned Hawaii earlier.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. It would be North Shore of Oahu, and I'd me and the fam go out there and just really enjoy it, and great food, and obviously the beach, and just some quiet family time.
There's a burger place in the North Shore called the Hukilau Burger that I always go to. The 51st Date movie was.
I'll have to try it out.
Yeah, you have to check it out. Hukilau Burger's got a little pineapple on there. Okay. So thanks, GJ, for everything you do for Texas State, for making this a special place. Thank you to Summer. Pass my regards on to her as well, because she really is a tour de force. And I know you're busy doing your thing, but she's doing a lot of stuff on campus and in the community as well. It's just like the president's wife, the head coach's wife is super active as well. So thank you so much to the Kinne family for what you do for Texas State. And thank you all for joining us here on this episode of The Current. Thank you, GJ, for joining us. And until next time, State's up, everyone.